Welcome to Wisdom Talk Radio, a collaborative community of explorers in conscious living. Welcome to today's episode of Wisdom Talk Radio. This is the place to explore the depths of conscious living and what it truly means to live an expanded life. Join us to be inspired, moved, transformed, and maybe leave with a little extra or a deeper sense of joy and of possibility. Today we get to explore what happens when you tap into creative intelligence as it is expressed through the portal of a portrait painter who taps into your essence in order to capture your potential. This will be a fascinating journey with my guest today, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. I'll tell you more in a minute. I'm Laurie Seymour, host of Wisdom Talk Radio and CEO and founder of the Baca Institute, home of the quantum connection process. You can go over to the Baca Institute to discover your unique connection with the essence of who you are by taking the quantum connection quiz. Why quantum connection? Because we're each designed to directly connect with Source differently. And knowing your own style opens you to a deeper connection with the universe. It truly is the secret to creating what you want in your life. Because who you are is exactly who is needed. So my guest today is someone I met a couple of months back through somebody else, how that happens. And we had a couple of really interesting conversations. And so I'm excited to learn more about her and what she does. And I'm excited for you to be part of what she creates, really. So my guest today is Shelly Lang, who is a painter focusing on the feminine aspects of our human and divine nature, with the intention of empowering a shift from a predominantly masculine worldview to a balance of the masculine and feminine energies within all of us. She is primarily interested in the exuberance, expansiveness, and connection we feel when we tap into our hearts and allow our intuition and personal truth to guide us. So you know why she's here, don't you? She focuses on the feminine to help guide the viewer to an expanded truth of her connection with God and the universe. And in fact, to remember herself that to receive from pure energy, pure creative energy, is her true essence. Welcome, Shelly Lang, to Wisdom Talk Radio. I'm very excited we get to do this today.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited as well.
Great. So where do we begin? I think I want to ask you, first of all, why painting? Why is that the medium through which you express yourself?
I think it's you mentioned something about how we all connect to spirit in a unique way. Mm-hmm. And I think the language of painting and not just painting, but art in general, is my language, my way of not only connecting to my higher essence, but sharing my wisdom. It's my way of sharing my wisdom. So I use the language of art to share our connection, really, and remind myself and others who we really are.
So you call your portraits a pure essence power portrait. That says so much to me, but what does that mean for you? And why have you entitled them that way?
Okay, yeah, I feel like you really get it, because we are powerful beyond measure. Our true essence is that we are source energy. And So again, it's just so in alignment with how you described, what you're up to is, that we each have a unique way of showing up in our true essence.
Mm,
And then with the portrait specifically, it's even more magical than that, because even in our egoic identity, which is the other part of us navigating this human experience, this human slash divine experience, that's what we're doing. We're navigating these two parts of ourselves. The magical part of our wounds, or our, well, basically our egoic identity, our wounds. Like we have a charge, and we have a wound that lives in our body, and that is imprinted within us. And so as we're living our lives and we get triggered by something, that goes back to that original idea that we made up at that time when we were very young. We made up a story about ourselves, others, and the world.
mhm.
And so that's living in our body. And so basically, the way that we come into this earth to have a human experience, we bring something very unique, with our gifts and talents, and also the way we need to be seen. And so our stories can be very unique as well. And so
Mhm.
even though you would say that our shadow or our darkness is not something that's magical, but indeed it is, because it's sort of the premise, or the vehicle by which we find our truth, we find our true essence.
It's like the contrast of the true essence with the story.
Yes, yes, and that in the end there's only love. So it's not true. The
Hmm.
story is not true. So that's the game we're playing. We're here pretending to be not powerful, but truly we are powerful.
And in some ways, and I don't say it this way to diminish anything, but in some ways we also pretend that we are wounded.
Same. Yeah, absolutely. Because when those things happen from between the time we're in the womb up until about 7, or these are my premises, and
Hmm.
I've studied with others, who, they have a similar perspective or premise.
Hmm.
Um, okay, so yeah, that we're pretending that we're wounded. So they're not true. It's just that because of our physical being, the way they
Hmm.
get imprinted within us, it's a biological reaction,
Hmm.
an addiction, if you will, because there's a chemical reaction that happens.
Hmm.
If we're not aware, we act automatically to with our compensating strategies. We have compensating strategies that are not true to who we truly are, and they sort of keep us in that old identity that is that pretending of being wounded.
Hmm.
So yeah, so the true essence is tapping into, what do you love, what sets your heart on fire, because much of the time in our lives we miss that, because we're quote unquote trying to stay safe,
Hmm.
um, basically, because we're
Yeah.
either acting in fear or we're
Uh-huh.
acting in love. There's just those two. And I got that from Neil Donald Walsh, and it couldn't be any more true. And um, yeah, and I also want to say that the egoic stories and everything, I learned that from William Whitecloud, who has a very powerful uh, structure for understanding where you're coming from. So
Mm.
anyway, the true essence power portraits is like tapping into your true essence and feeling into that intention, or what you would love, what your heart would love, and what's naturally powerful within you. And so the portrait is meant to um, activate you, inspire you, and guide you in staying connected to that, your true essence. And there's also some bit of the egoic identity in there as a awareness piece.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that really, that really makes sense to me. And so you have that journey in a way captured in the portrait. And that
Yes.
journey to remind you to that, wait, this is not who you are. This is who you are.
Mhm.
And I love how you say in the end there's only love. And that's something that, that really stays with me. And so how do people, from your experience with this, with not only doing the portraits, but then I'm sure hearing from people about how they've been activated, how they're being used, how they're received.
How the portraits are received.
Yeah, in people's
So
lives.
you mean people that I've given them to?
Hmm.
Well, mostly a sense of release and expandedness. Like, oh my God, I didn't see myself that way. Oh, that is me, kind of.
Hmm. Hmm. A recognition.
Yes, yes. Like when we get a glimpse of who we really are, um, and you feel this expansion in your heart, it's like, oh, I can claim that, or I can step into that kind of thing. That's the first initial reaction I get when people
Hmm.
received the portrait, when they have seen the portrait.
Hmm. And do you, I don't know if you stay in touch with people or if this is part of your intention going forward to I think of it this way, reminding people of that they have that and how to use that on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, I haven't developed a structure for a practice for the people that I've created them for, but that would be an obvious next step to
Hmm.
have basically it would be an alchemy practice because basically when you find yourself in the lower identities, it's choosing the higher and having some sort of meditative practice um, in front of the portrait.
Yeah.
And for me to add that, and that is an intention, I haven't done it yet. I have checked in with some people and um, they do indeed use the portrait in that way to remind themselves of who they are.
Hmm.
But this practice idea, just offer a structure for them
Hmm.
to start from, and then they develop something that works for them.
Yeah.
A structure of spending time with it, spending a quiet time with it daily, and having your practice to connect with source.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Because it really is a vehicle for them, excuse me, to connect with source in their own unique way and
Yes.
truly in their own unique way. And you've got this reminder, right there in the physical, which mostly people don't have.
True. 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 I mean, if you have created an environment yourself for yourself, that is an expression of, truly an expression of you. Yes, we do that, of course, but a portrait, it is an activation and kind of like I've been calling it an oracle because it's like a spiritual book a sacred spiritual book that each time you go to it, there's something new, there's new wisdom for you. Depending on where you are energetically, there's a new truth that comes. And that's the intention behind the portrait.
Wow. I'm just reflecting on that in so many ways. People use different decks of cards, whether it's tarot or, there's so many oracle decks out there right now. And this becomes, while it's a static portrait, it's got an energy and a life to it.
Exactly.
And
It's a,
and so you can't look at it, from day to day to day, it sounds like, and see the same thing.
yeah, it's meant, my intention is to have it, yes, it's an energetic, it's a living energetic thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
That's pretty extraordinary. I don't know anyone else that is doing something like this.
Yeah, I know a few other people that are doing similar portraits, but um, yeah, I don't know about the activation.
Mm-hmm.
It just resonated as something that was obvious, and it has
Mm-hmm.
been, as I'm a new artist, also, just finding my way as an artist, like developing my language as
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm finding, where to share this, where is my market for this? Where am I, where someone's going to be, oh my gosh, yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I'm
Yeah.
hopeful that, and I expect that as people hear about this through our conversation, even that that you'll be very busy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it also has to do with me embodying what it is, and knowing the value in it. And
Mm-hmm.
again, like I've always been an artist, but I haven't always created art. Didn't feel I didn't feel like it was safe to carve out that space for me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's been my journey to
Yeah.
claim it, to claim me, my true essence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, often we teach or we support others in the way that we needed it the most, or that we still, need it the most and everything. And so um I'm more embodying the value of it, because I'm more and more gaining confidence in myself as an artist.
You talk a lot about sovereignty and why that's important, and it sounds like that's part of your own journey as well as a recognition of how all of this works together for people.
Yes, absolutely.
Can you say some more about what that means, what sovereignty means for you?
Yes. Yeah. Because we can know our greatness. We can know, like, those parts of ourselves that feel expanded and are true for us. Um, and again, it is part of the journey to truly own that, to step into it and claim it. And that takes will,
Mm-hmm.
because you're stepping into the unknown. Your heart knows. And, in true creating and true sovereignty, that's all that you need. Um, and then we have again, our human journey, where our ego's job is just to keep us safe, and to keep us in that little definition of what it believes we are. And so moving towards sovereignty is continue to step into the truth of who you are.
Yeah.
And it's a journey, and it's a choice. And so I think what what feels so exciting to me is that what's happening in the world right now, with the shift in the economy to the creative class economy, with the internet giving each sort of um, democratizing opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's happening. This idea of sovereignty, the more, and what it means to me, um, is that I show up fully as myself. I'm not. Um, there are no, like, the social structures that define separation or good enough, or the way one should be, are are falling away. I mean, we're kind of in a we're in a an energetic sort of tangle,
Mm-hmm.
in the world, politically and all of that, and economically, as things are shifting and everything. But really, I feel energetically, there's there's a platform, and there's an understanding of ourselves, of our sovereignty or our connection to spirit, that is the truer part of us, that is giving us a chance to show up uniquely as we are. And there's no idea of any one person that would say that they don't belong.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then the more they show up as they truly, truly are, not only a gift to them, it's a gift to the world, everyone else.
Yeah.
So this
And that,
idea of sovereignty, yes, this
mhm.
idea of sovereignty is being fully who you are.
And in with that or through that, we have our own unique creative contribution in the world.
Yes. 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 And that um and to honor and value that um is a very generative and inclusive world,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Indeed. Indeed.
full of possibility.
And to me, it is what life truly is. You know, we've
Yeah.
created a lot of other things and a lot of other, we've created so much separation and we've believed that that is what's real.
Mhm.
When we were talking before we started, we were talking about, before we started the recording today, we were talking about about surrender and around creation and around in order to have the whole range, you used the phrase surrendered manifestation, which was to me was like, oh my goodness. And oh my goodness, yes. And then I was talking to with you about the surrendered will, and how in order to act, in order to have impact in the world, in order to act on our world, we cannot be passive. But it, and you saw it before, there's that choice every moment, really, not just every day, but every moment.
Mhm.
Do we surrender and act? Do we surrender to that inner guidance and to being completely who we are and
Yeah.
act?
Yes.
And I think there's no way truly to be who we are, to be who we are in the world without also acting. That is not a passive place.
Yeah. It's about showing up. It's about
Mhm.
it's about coming onto the court and choosing, okay, I'm going to go for this.
Mhm. Mhm.
So you can either be in a psychological tension of listening to your ego that, oh my God, don't do this, you know. Um,
Mhm.
so that's psychological tension where you feel like there's something you need to fix. So, okay, so but you're on the court. There's tension, but you're going for something. So you can say, okay, thank you, but I'm not going to create from this place.
Mhm.
I'm gonna anchor down into I'm going to anchor down into the earth. I'm going to call all my energy back to me, which is really stepping into the field,
Mhm.
quantum field. And when you're in that place, for me, it feels like so much gratitude. I can't even hold it.
Mm.
It's just like so expansive. And then I think it's in this, like, you knowing how loved you are, and and okay, this is what I'm creating, and then let you allow love to animate you in that process. And
Mm.
that's kind of a structure that I go to. And really it's about tapping into what will they, excuse me, what will this feel like when I create this? What will it feel like? So you're tapping into the feeling of
Mm.
of your intention. And so, energetically, it is part of the energy you're vibrating in. And so that affects the field. That affects the energy in the field.
So I just want to clarify something for myself. So you say, what will it feel like? Sounds like
Or
you're
what does it feel like?
futurizing,
Yeah.
but it's
What
really
does it feel
not.
like?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're feeling it in the present moment.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
You're feeling it right then. And that's the whole idea,
Exactly.
to
So
feel
you're
it
really
right in
stepping,
the present moment.
yes. And you're stepping into it in a way that doesn't have doubt, that doesn't have holdbacks, and
Yeah.
it is completely active in an energetic sense of here I am, and I am absolutely willing to receive and act.
Yes.
Does that make sense to you? Does that fit what your experience is?
Yes, receive. I'm absolutely willing to receive. Is yes, that absolutely. It is that. It's like already having received it. It's like I think that's why the feeling of gratitude is like, whatever your heart says that it would love to experience, it's already in your field. It's
Hmm.
already
Hmm.
there. And this is a practice of of going to that place of,
Yeah. Because you wouldn't know it. You wouldn't even have the sensibility about it or a thought about it if it weren't already in your field.
right, exactly.
So, how does, or where does the feminine fit into or fit within our true essence? And because, and it's not, that's not just about women, that's about
No.
humanity.
Yeah. So the feminine is the receiving piece,
Hmm.
and the masculine is choosing and, stepping onto the court saying, I'm going for this.
Hmm.
It's a back and forth. The the feminine, the masculine receives the download or the inspiration from the feminine and
Mm.
moves into action, and the feminine continues to, well, hold the expansiveness,
Yes.
and the masculine also holds the structure as well. Like, so when you're going for something, you're gonna have ideas of the ego trying to, it's gonna come up
Hmm. Hmm.
over, and then you choose over and over to say, okay, thank you, but I'm going to create from my wholeness, my bigness. I'm
Yeah.
going to create from being connected to all. And so again, that's okay. So that's the masculine to say, that's your will, basically saying, no,
Hmm.
I'm going back to this orientation, the orientation of my expansiveness or my greatness or whatever you want to call it, my source energy, my true power. And then like having like being connected to what your heart would love is also the feminine. So they work together.
Okay.
But,
Because so,
but
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry,
No, no.
but then in a predominantly masculine model, that's how we get caught up in the doing, doing, doing. But when we're doing, we're not connected to our heart. It's more about being good enough or um, um, meet some outer expectation to to be safe,
Mhm.
to to like a lot of times it's about proving something or whatever the ego needs to do to quote unquote be okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, yeah, but while you're receiving information from the field or from the expansive part of us, which is the same as nature too. Nature is the same way. Nature is expansive and
Mhm.
infinitely creative. Um, we are getting downloads for next steps,
Yeah.
and so we're surrendered. We're
We're
not
s-
in.
we're
Oh,
surrendered, but the surrendered, this is your phrase, the surrendered manifestation.
mhm.
Because if we just stay in the place of receiving, we're only using a part.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. So you hold your will. You hold your will. You stay, even though
Mhm.
you're like shit. You stay,
Mhm.
even though there's those times where you're afraid, but you choose. No, I'm staying. I'm staying. My vision's here. I'm staying,
Mhm.
and that's
Staying and I'm
masculine.
walking forward. I'm.
Yes, I'm playing. I'm gonna,
Mhm.
and so that's the masculine too, supporting the feminine.
And this has been, I have this really strong feeling, this has been your path in your work of bringing these pure essence power portraits into the world is receiving and then, okay, yes, this is what I'm to do, and taking it that next step and the next step and the next step. And um, in this way, you've really brought something so magnificent into being.
Oh, thank you. Yes, yes. I think we all create magically that way and
Mhm.
bring wonderful things into the world.
So
Yeah.
how does that relate, if it does? Because this is your phrase that you shared with me about strong back, soft front, wild heart.
I love that. I actually heard it from Brene Brown
Ah,
and in her book, Braving the Wilderness, which is
hmm,
much about what we're talking about. It's about autonomy, it's about sovereignty in the end. And so it's actually a saying from Buddhist monks. And it's powerful to me because the strong back is staying with yourself, staying with what is true,
hmm,
um, staying in your heart. And the soft front is keeping your heart open because we can, like any judgment, any kind of judgment, any kind of grievance, any judgment keeps us from our expansiveness.
hmm,
And soft heart is staying open, um, and the strong back is protecting you as well.
hmm.
And then therefore when you're in that, you can't help but have your wild heart, which basically means your heart is connected to anything and all things and everything. So anything is possible. So let it fly with joy and exuberance. And so we can all have a wild heart. We're taught to believe that the world is unsafe. But when we are in our integrity in this way, we can call in magic with our wild heart.
And we do call it in. We do call it in. It's a really beautiful way that you've just described all of that. And I feel the invitation in that. It's that invitation to, um, well, as I talk about it, the invitation to remember, and then the invitation to be.
You're safe to be,
Yeah, yeah.
to play, express, dance, and
With that exuberant, wild heart.
yeah.
Yeah,
And that's very feminine.
that is. It doesn't, it feels feminine but it feels like a whole. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like again, the masculine will tend, I mean, the masculine all on its own will tend to, like, the ego wants to be safe. And so it will go
Mhm.
doing thing.
Right.
So we need to be in action. And so it's with this piece, this
Yeah.
wild heart.
Yeah. So when we're in action connected with source, connected with our own heart, connected with the fullness of who we are.
Mhm.
And that changes everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's inclusive. That's
Mm.
connected to all. That's um, yeah, I can't think of the words that well, it's it keeps you open to what excites you most.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's intuitive. It's yeah.
And to quote you, in the end there's only love.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Shelley, is there anything else that you feel like we haven't touched on that you would love to have our audience hear from you about?
I feel so seen, and like you really, I feel like what we've spoken about, like you really have asked me the questions that have helped me articulate what they are.
Mm,
And you've seen the value of them and the pure expression of the portraits. And so I couldn't be more happy about that. So I can't think of another single thing because I feel like you really touched on and gave me um, voice or a place to speak my voice about the sacredness of what they are.
yes.
And like just the speaking of who we really are. And and
Mhm.
all the portraits support us in that. So
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I'm glad because that's what I want. That's what I want for anybody that I'm in conversation here with. And I want for you is to have that sense of, yes, I've been able to say what is mine to say.
yes, yes, thank you.
Yeah. How can people find you? That's a really important part. I mean, of course, it'll be in the show notes. So if you don't write it down right now, just, it's in the show notes, but can you have it on our recording?
Yes, I have a website and it is shellylang.com. Uh, you can get on my community list, which is basically I send out emails. You can contact me there, or you can contact me um, at my Instagram, which is I am Shelly Lang. And I am also on Facebook, Shelly Lang. And and on my Instagram, there's a way that you can contact me on the links
Okay,
on my bio.
great. Wonderful. Well, thank you again, Shelley, for joining us, for being such a great guest, and for sharing who you are.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
You're welcome. And I want to thank our audience too for being with us today here at Wisdom Talk Radio. And please join us here regularly for more wisdom, discovery, and illumination. You can find us on all the places you listen to your podcasts, your favorite places. And of course, we're on YouTube as well, and you get to see the beautiful Shelley if you go on YouTube. And if you've enjoyed listening today, please leave us a review, because when you do, that lets more people discover this kind of experience, this kind of discovery, this kind of, possible transformation of the world. And that's what we're here about. And for more for you about how to thrive with your own quantum connection, take the quantum connection quiz now. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us here at Wisdom Talk Radio. We wish you well in your conscious explorations. For more information and to join in the conversation, our website is wisdomtalkradio.com or at Wisdom Talk Radio on Facebook.